I want to talk about probably the most important skill that you need to develop to become a successful investor, and that is finding great property deals. We talked about this a little bit on day one about finding deals. I just want to go a bit deeper on this. If you master this, you can overcome all the other problems. People say there are lots of reasons why they can't invest, hold them back, but actually find good deals, it's the most important thing. Why do people invest in property? Well, okay, number one, you might fill in the blanks in your workbook. For most people, it's about replacing their income. Maybe what they do, they don't enjoy, they want to do something else, so they want to replace that income out. So that's the first thing. Maybe it's actually, they don't want to replace it, they just want a bit of extra cash to have a bit of a better lifestyle. Maybe be able to pay for the kids to go to a better school, have more holidays, whatever it might be. For many people, they love what they do, but they just want to put a safety net in place. What if they can't? What if they can't work? And I think COVID in 2020, the lockdowns that came as a result of that, were a real wake-up call for many people who might have really enjoyed what they do, great company, and suddenly there was no business. And I think a lot of people suddenly realize, wow, it's very risky to have one income stream. So having multiple income streams in case something happens is a really smart thing to do. Next one, a lot of people do this for pension, it's legacy. They're very comfortable now, they've got a good salary, they're earning money, but they know when they stop work, their income's going to come down dramatically. And unfortunately, most people do not have enough provision for their pension. Now, there is a state pension, of course, in the UK. At the moment, there is one. No guarantee it's going to be one in the future. And I think it's something like, like £100 a week. So, hey, get £100 a week to live on. Brilliant. That will buy you as much Ryvita and Kitty Cat as you want, you know, and that's what you might be eating, Ryvita and Kitty Cat, if you just rely on the state pension. So it's not a good thing to be relying on that. We need to accept personal responsibility in our lives for everything that happens in our lives. And we want to put that provision in place. I highly recommend. For me, I think investing in property is all about freedom. Freedom and choice. Choice what you want to do with your life, okay? And also there's the ability to give back. One of my mentors, a guy called Bob Proctor, he's not with us anymore, he used to talk about if you're on a plane and they say in the event of an emergency, the oxygen mask drop down. Do you remember that? You all know that, right? And what do they say you should do with the oxygen mask? Fit your own mask first. Because then when you can breathe, you can then help other people. The same thing financially. If you financially look after yourself, it's not being selfish, it's about sorting yourself out financially. You are then in a much better position to be able to help other people to become financially independent. Help them in whatever way you want that to be. So you can have resources, you can have time, you can have money that you can use to help other people. But if you are struggling yourself, you are not breathing, you're not capable to be able to help other people. Sometimes people say, oh, I don't know if it's right to be a landlord making all that money. Well, get over it, it's okay, you know? But you're in a much better position. If you really want to help other people, another great saying of Bob Proctor, he says, if you want to help poor people, make sure you're not one of them. Right? So you've got a duty to sort your financial situation out first, then you're in a much better position to be able to help other people. Richard was sharing yesterday about Vavavoom and their company that they employ and train VAs. And if you haven't spoken to, go and have a chat to Richard. It will, if you're overwhelmed about all the things you've got to do, remember, you don't have to do it all. There are lots of things that you can get a VA to do. What I'm going to talk about now about finding deals, by the way, a VA can do lots of that for you. But it's great. Richard was saying that, you know, his company makes money, all the people who use their services, they get lots more done. But actually, the change they're making by having this incredible company that's looking after the VAs and creating a community, it's changing those people's lives because they're getting paid very well for the incomes in that country. So it's been able to do that and make a difference is really, really important. And you know, when you get to a point that you have looked after yourself, you'll realize that money alone is not enough. If you want to be a fully self-actualized person, you need to continue to feel that you are growing, and also you need to continue to feel you are contributing. And only once you are growing and contributing can you then become fully self-actualized. And so I would encourage you to think about, set your goals, but make your goals bigger than just about you. How can you help other people? Because sometimes we do more for other people than we will for ourselves, okay? So these are some of the reasons that people invest in property. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to think about this for a minute. Imagine I had a magic wand. It's a very big magic wand because it's going to help all of you people. Imagine I had a magic wand and I was going to wave this magic wand around this. So we're going to take a couple of minutes, get a piece of paper, and I want you to think about what would you do if you had all the money you needed and thus the time. So what would you do next week? Let's imagine currently, right now, you have all the money you're ever going to need. What would you do next week? What would you do next? What kind of things would you do now? Now, somebody might say, oh, I'd go on a great holiday. Or actually, I'd go and start a business because I've always wanted to do that. So I just want you to think about what would you do if you didn't have to work? Let's say last night, the Euro rollover lottery was £104 million. And you were the one sole winner of that lottery. 104 million is probably enough for most people, right? In fact, by the way, if you've got that much money, you've got another big problem on how to use and work with that money, but still, that's beside the point. But imagine you've just won the Euro triple lottery rollover. 104 million pounds is arriving in your bank account at about 4:30 today. What are you going to do this next week? I'm going to give you a bit of background music, please. Just a couple of minutes to think about that. What would you do if you didn't have to work? What would you do if you didn't have to work for a living? Let's think about some of the challenges to making that a reality. And one of the big problems that many people have is that to buy properties, remember there are other strategies we can use such as purchase lease options and rent to rent. We're not covering those on this particular training, but they're great strategies that can get us going. But most investors, if you're going to buy a property, you need a 25% deposit. And even rent to rent and PLOs, you might need some money, 5 to 10K. Now, obviously, these can be borrowed from elsewhere, but this concern, this fear that we're going to run out of money is a big problem, because at some point, no matter how much you've got to start with, everyone runs out of money at some point. And what happens is most investors just stop at that point. They have to then wait. However, I suggest this is only really a perceived problem. It's a problem in your mind that you need to get over. Once you get good at finding great deals, there is no problem. See, what happens is, and maybe, can we get this screen? Can we get this on the, this flip chart on screen? So what happens is, so let's say we're going to, now you see just how bad my drawing is here. No, it's not. That's how bad my drawing is, right? So this is the purchase price. No, it's a graph. It's a graph actually. So this is money, okay, and this is kind of time. So when we buy a house, this is the purchase price, PP's purchase price. You might want to draw this in your workbooks. This is the purchase price, and we're going to put in typically a 25% deposit, and we're going to get a mortgage for 75%, okay? And at some point, everyone runs out of their mortgages, their money. And let's say this is, I don't know, keep the math simple, 200,000. So we're going to have a £150,000 mortgage, right? At some point, you're going to run out of those kind of deposits. But what happens is people buy a property, they put money in, and then they sit back and wait. And with time, you know, property value goes up, and let's say we get up to a value up here of say 275, okay? We could get a mortgage of 75% of that, which I think's 206,250. So in other words, over time, as the value goes up and the rents need to go up as well, we can basically remortgage this. So we go to a new mortgage company, or we go to the same lender and ask for a further advance, and they give us a new mortgage, which is enough to pay off the original mortgage, and we get our deposit back, if that makes sense, yeah? So remortgaging is how we basically, we buy something, after a number of years, we remortgage, take the money out, we can go and buy another one, okay? That's certainly what I did when I started investing. Well, actually, I didn't for a few years, because I didn't know you could do that, and only in about kind of towards the end of the 90s, I kind of realized, oh, that might be a good idea. Took some money out and bought some more properties. That was what helped me speed up to eventually replace my income. What's the biggest problem with this, guys? You gotta wait. You gotta wait. And I bought properties at the end of 2006, 2007, just at the peak of the last market, thinking, oh, I'll remortgage these in a few years' time. Then the market came down. Someone had to wait 10 years for the value to recover and go up enough to be able to remortgage. So this is the problem with this model, okay? However, there's something else we can do, which I'll cover in a moment, when we are finding really good property deals, okay? So it's what everyone does, remortgaging, but it just takes time. So remember what makes a really good deal? We talked about this the other day, just summarizing some of the points. If a property's got great cash flow, it's making money, and ideally it's a high return on investment. So the money we're making each year compared to the money we put in, that's a high percentage, then there's enough profit to share with someone else. So this goes back to finding good deals is the most important thing. If it's a good deal, there'll be enough profit in there to give some of that to someone else, whether it's a loan or whether it's a joint venture. Or if we can buy at a discount, rule number one, if we buy from motivator and buy at a discount, and or we can add value to it. So sometimes I bought things at the full price and then I've added value to them, and the money I've spent has been less than the value added. So therefore, we're increasing the value quicker. So instead of having to wait all these years, we've been able to refinance quicker and pull the money out, okay? Or you just buy at a discount. So let me show this with you. So similar kind of diagram. Now, the different numbers here are that it's worth 200,000, but because we deal with a motivated seller, we buy at 150, so 25% off. Now, is every seller going to give you a 25% discount? Of course they're not going to do that. Of course they're not going to do that. But we're looking for the motivated ones who need to sell. By the way, do you think there might be some landlords who want to retire, maybe they're coming to the end of their investing journey, they want to retire, they remember the last crash where prices came down 20, 30%, and they've had to then hold those properties for another 10 years for the values to come up again. There might be people who want to get out now, and they've had really good growth for the last 12 years, and some of those people, if they fear that the market could drop as much as it did last time, which I don't think it will do, but they could worry about that, them selling at 10, 15, 20% off the current market value means they're still selling it for a lot more than they bought it for. Does that make sense? Yeah? So actually, they might be prepared to sell at quite a big discount, which probably they wouldn't have done last year or the year before where the market was booming. But now they know it's coming down, they might be more motivated just to get out, still make good money, but then we're getting some equity in there. So we buy at a discount, and 6 months later, what we can do is we remortgage, and our mortgage is 75% of the value. So if the value is 200, we're getting 150,000 mortgage. So the deposit we put in basically comes back to us. This is called momentum investing. And that means you have to own something for 6 months before you can remortgage it, typically. And so this is a way, by buying ideally below market value, and if we can, adding value to something as well, we can then take our money out quicker. So momentum investing is a really important concept we need to understand. And the better we can buy at, the easier that is to do. And it means you can quickly recycle your deposit. So say this money you put in, this 25%, which buying at 150, 25% of that would be 37,500. So if it's your 37,500 pounds you're using, you get it back and you can go and do another one. Or maybe this money's borrowed from someone else. You can then return it to the people you bought it from. You're left with the property, still with 25% equity, but you own that. You're not giving any share to anyone else. So this momentum investing is really, really important. Hey, it's Simon here again. I do hope you enjoyed that last video. You know what? Watching videos is a great way to build your knowledge. However, there's nothing like attending a live event because you get to connect with a whole load of other people. You get the very latest knowledge distilled into actionable steps for you, and you get to connect and interact with me. We have a big 3-day event coming up, and I'd love to tell you more about it. So if you click on the link below, you can find out about our next 3 big day event. I look forward to seeing you there. So click on the link below. In the meantime, I've lined up another video for you to watch as well.